the sponsorship led to, you were in Formula Renault UK from 2001 to 2004, British F3. Then you broke your ankle and things changed significantly, didn't they? You kind of lost momentum in your racing career. Is that accurate?
It's very accurate, and definitely one of the hardest times of my life. I actually had a full season ahead of British F3, and I broke my ankle in the January, and it was clear by the March that I would miss the whole season. I lost my sponsor, I lost my seat in the team. And those were dark, dark days because I had really lost all the momentum, and the longer you're out of racing, the tougher it is to come back. But it was at the end of that season, I started testing in World Series by Renault, but it wasn't until the following February that I got the now very famous call from Gerhard Unger to come in.
Yeah, the phone rang.
The phone rang, and I'm thankful to this day for that phone call and that chance.
And what happened next?
They invited me to come out to Barcelona to test the DTM car, and they'd actually seen my name because I'd been nominated twice for British Young Driver of the Year award. I was nominated twice and made the finals but didn't win. But they saw me up on stage at the Autosport Awards, and I had driven the car because they test all 6 finalists. So I knew the car. So when I arrived in Barcelona, instead of being maybe nervous that it could go wrong, or I just had nothing to lose. It was my last chance to really salvage something from my racing career. So I gave it all I had. I loved driving the car. And 10 days later, I was invited to come back to Stuttgart. And that was it. I was offered a 1-year contract. And then when that 1 year was up, a new 3-year contract. And I stayed for 7 years in DTM.
Yeah, incredible. Did you feel during your DTM time that you had sort of achieved, almost at that point, everything that you wanted to achieve? What were your goals and ambitions at that stage?
I was this incredibly ambitious and fierce young driver who, when I joined Mercedes, they wanted to give me 20 kilos less than my teammates because they said that will help you race at the front. And whether I was just too naive or too fierce, I said, no, I don't need any help. I can race at this level on the same weight because I believe I'm capable of it. And if I look back at that young girl today, I think, wow, I had so much confidence in my own abilities. But in DTM, if you're not in the factory team, you're not racing in the newest car. So it became very quickly clear that I would be racing in the midfield, with the idea that if I could get good enough results, I could move up into the factory team. But somehow those results, they never materialized. And that was one of the big disappointments for me because I felt I was capable of more. And I never really got to show. And I think over those seasons, my confidence actually started to wane, because when you're giving it everything and not getting the results back, doubt starts to creep in. And it got to the stage where I was comfortable. I was a works Mercedes-Benz driver. I was earning great money. I was representing one of the greatest brands, automotive brands in the world. But my gut feeling started screaming, you need more. This is not what you agreed to settle on. And this idea that I had to push myself further, and that the DTM story in a way had come to its natural end. And it's very tough when I look back now, because a lot of people say, well, what are you going to do next? And I said, well, I don't know what I'm going to do next. I just know it can't be this. I was so reliant on my gut feeling that I had to move on to something different, because I'm a great believer, if you don't close one door and end one chapter, you can't start the next. And for me, it was very clear by that point that the DTM wasn't for me anymore.
So tell us what happened next.
Well, I wrote to Norbert Haug, my boss at the time, to tell him that it would be my last season of DTM. And everyone was very shocked, and rightly so. And I was obviously very grateful for the opportunity they'd given me. But I didn't know what was coming next. But I had started to explore maybe racing in the US, maybe doing something completely different. And at that time, my husband was already invested in the Williams Formula One team with a minority shareholding. And Frank Williams came to one of the DTM rounds, also because 2 of my teammates then were former drivers of his, Ralf Schumacher and David Coulthard. And I was introduced to Frank, obviously not just as a racer, but also as Toto's wife, and told him, he was quite shocked at the speed and the brutality of the DTM cars. And I explained to him that it was be my last season, because actually my big dream was to drive a Formula One car. And I'll be very honest, was it because I was Toto's wife, or was it because I was a young Scottish female driver? He said, I'll give you 20 laps. I'll give you 20 laps in my Formula One car. And that's all it was ever supposed to be at Silverstone at the end of the season.
That was in 2012? Do I have that right?
That was in 2012, yeah.
Okay. And then what followed? Describe to us the 20 laps.
Well, my view was very much, it was just, me maybe managing to live out a childhood dream of driving a Formula One car. I didn't have any more expectations than just getting that one opportunity and trying to do a really, really good job. And the team were fantastic because they really got me ready for the opportunity. And there had been a young woman testing for another team that had a very bad accident. And they said, okay, well, that's just not going to happen with us. You are going to feel so comfortable in that car when you jump in. And a Formula One car is incredibly complex. You're just getting out of the pits, knowing all the buttons, feeling like you're in command of the car. Took lots of days in the simulator. I did straight line tests. They really put me in the best possible position to succeed. And I'll never forget waking up on the day it was slightly damp. And I thought, oh, that's all I need, a damp track for my first time in an F1 car. But thankfully, the first run was a bit damp. And by the second run, it had dried out and it went very well. And of course, there was a huge amount of media interest in a woman being back in an F1 car. And the then CEO at the time, Adam Parr, said, listen, I think we need to find a way for you to join us in some capacity. And he came up with the idea of the title of a development driver because the team was already full for the following season. And that's a title that lives on in Formula One to this day as a development driver. And that was my start in F1.